Hey my glam girls, welcome back to my channel. It's Chelsea, where we talk about all things glam and all things girly. And today we've got a really girly thing going on here. We got some new Char Girl, and if you don't know, I love Charlotte Tilbury. We are looking at both of the new Instant Look in a palettes. And then I also picked up two of the lipsticks, although I know none of the lipsticks are actually new. I didn't have them in my collection, so I picked them up. And then I picked up one of the Tinted Love lip and cheek tints. And then lastly, one of the lip cheat. So I will be demoing both of the products on the face. Of course, I'll be sharing with you my opinions and doing a couple of comparisons with some of the products from Charlotte Tilbury that I already have. And that's it. Thank you so much for taking time and spending it with me today. If you are new to my channel, I'd love for you to consider subscribing to my channel and joining the Glam Girl squad. And let's just get right into this video. So like I said, I decided to pick up both of the new Instant Look in a palettes. They decided to launch two of them, one in a lighter shade and then one in a deeper shade, which I think is phenomenal. A lot of times with brands, when they come out with these face palettes, they tend to just come out with one face palette that is usually only going to be geared toward light to maybe medium, maybe a light tan complexion. It usually completely eliminates that tan to deep complexion. So I'm very happy to see that Charlotte Tilbury decided to come out with two of these palettes. Looking at the packaging, I love this outer packaging of the cartridge. It is the same for both of the palettes, and then the actual palettes have this beautiful gold packaging. This is what the back of the palette looks like. It almost looks like a Valentine's Day launch to me, even though it's not Valentine's Day, but I'm here for it. Like I said, I picked up the light palette, and initially I wasn't, because I was like, oh, this is gonna be too light for me. And then I saw Charlotte Holdcroft demo it, and I was like, that actually might work on my complexion. Let me add to cart. So I ended up getting that one. This lighter palette is called Pretty Blushed Beauty. And here is the deeper palette, and this is called Glowing Beauty. Not to be confused with Gorgeous Glowing Beauty. I love that Instant Look in a palette, let me just say. But these are totally different. With this Instant Look in an Eye palette, the lighter one, which is the Pretty Blushed Beauty, this has a rose-based theme to it. And what's interesting and like very exciting about these new Instant Look in a palettes is that we get the traditional 3 eyeshadows, we have a blush, we have our highlighter, we have the bronzer, but then we also have one of her airbrush flawless finish powders, which I think is amazing. Just to give you some type of reference, here is Gorgeous Glowing Beauty, and traditionally we get the 3 eyeshadows, we get the bronzer, and then we get 2 cheek colors and a highlighter. So in the previous Instant Look in the palettes, there's no actual setting powder, but I actually think it's great that she eliminated one of the blushes and decided to throw in the airbrush flawless finish powder. If you've always been interested in trying the powder, you've got a great opportunity in trying it in here. So to tell you just a little bit of details about these products within here, for the eyeshadows, we have the first eyeshadow is going to be the eye brightener. This is going to be a sheer rose tone sparkle shade to widen and brighten the look of the eyes in her new diamond filter texture. Then we have the enhanced shade, which is going to be a satin shade, which is a rose taupe, and then we have a matte shade, which is the smoke shade. The bronzer in the palette is going to be the bronzer in her Film Star Bronze and Glow palette, and it's going to be the one for the light medium palette, which I have always wanted to try that bronzer, and I've never purchased that particular palette because I always thought the bronzer would be too light, but I have always been interested in that highlighter. So I was very interested to see if this bronzer would show up on my complexion. And as you can see in the demonstration, it actually does show up. It's not the deepest bronzer on me, but it definitely does show up. I think for me it looks like a bronze contour, so even though this is a lighter bronzer, it still adds some warmth, it still adds some depth to the face, as you can see here. And so I was happy that it did show up. I think my shade would be about the deepest shade that could actually use this bronzer as a bronzer. I think if you're any deeper than me, it's not really going to show up at all on the skin. Of course, you could use this as a wonderful transition shade if you did choose to purchase this particular palette, if you did like the other ones. But I think if you're about my complexion, I'm about the deepest that could get full use of this palette the way that it was created. I'll say that. In terms of the highlighter, oh, this highlighter is gorgeous. The highlighter in this particular palette is the highlighter from the Film Star Bronze and Glow palette, and it is stunning. Like, when you apply that to the cheeks, I was like, I wasn't ready. It definitely is highlighting to the gods. It's beautiful. And I think the shade is, once again, even though it is geared toward light to medium complexions, I actually think it does work on my complexion, and it doesn't come off looking too ashy or too stark on the skin. After I finished my makeup, I did set my face with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless setting spray to just mesh all of the powders together. And I think it really helped to allow for the highlighter to really blend into the skin and, you know, look kind of one with the skin. But I was really happy with how the highlighter looked on the skin. The blush in this particular palette is going to be a pinky peach blush, and Charlotte says this is going to mimic the skin's natural flush. And then once again, the face powder is her Airbrush Flawless Finish powder, and it's in the shade light to medium. Now, she does not have a shade light to medium in the actual individual powders. I have the shade medium. If you know anything about me, I stand for the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish powder. I cannot get enough of this powder, and it has only been until this year that this powder has even gotten some competition. There's been some great powders released this year. So just to give you a quick swatch comparison, because I thought it was very interesting when she said the powder was in shade light medium, and I was like, but you don't have a light medium powder like sold individually. So here's my powder in medium. So this is the shade medium, and this is from the individual palette that I have, and then this is the shade light medium from her Instant Look in a palette. So we have Instant Look in a palette shade, and then we have individual shade in medium. And in my opinion, they look absolutely identical. So I think if you wear the individual shade medium in her individual powder, then obviously this particular powder is going to work for you, and it's gonna look fine, and it'll work well for your complexion. I set my under eye with it, and you saw that earlier in the demonstration. And then I also went on ahead and set the rest of my face, because this particular powder, it is a translucent setting powder. And I love that it doesn't interfere and like darken my makeup or anything like that. It also doesn't leave a white cast on my complexion. So for me, I can use this powder to set all over the face if I want to. Ideally, I use this powder for my T-zone, but if I am in a rush, I will just go ahead and set my whole face. So that's what I did today. I love this powder. I've been using it for at least 2 years, might be going on 3 years. And it's still one of my favorite powders, so stand by it. Now on to the deeper palette. So this particular palette is also $75, and the theme of this palette is a bronze gold theme. So in this particular palette, we get all of the same types of products, or I should say we get all of the same types of textures and formula. So we have a satin shade for one of the eyeshadows, her new diamond filter texture shade, which I think it is different than the diamond filter texture shade in the lighter palette, and we'll swatch those for comparisons. And then we have a matte shade for the smoke shade for the eyeshadow. For the bronzer in this particular palette, it says that this bronzer is coming from her Film Star Bronze and Glow for the medium to deep palette, but I have that one and they don't look identical at all. So let me show you really quick. So here's her Film Star Bronze and Glow palette for medium to deep complexions, and taking a look at them, you can see that they don't look similar at all. The one in the Film Star Bronze and Glow actually has sheen in it. It's not a matte bronzer, and this particular bronzer is completely matte. Here is the bronzer from the Film Star Bronze and Glow palette, and then here is the bronzer from the Instant Look in a palette. So as you can see, this is the bronzer from the Film Star Bronze and Glow, and then this is the bronzer from the Instant Look in a palette. And in my opinion, they don't look identical at all. This one looks cooler and it's got some shimmer to it, and this one is completely matte. So I thought that was interesting. I'm like, those aren't the same at all. Now, I do have the bronzers from her launch last year, the famous Airbrush Flawless Finish bronzer, and we will go ahead and swatch that for a comparison, because I think these bronzers are going to be more similar to the bronzers in these Instant Look in a palettes. This is the bronzer from her Airbrush Flawless Finish bronzer, and then this is the one from the Instant Look in a palette, and this one is in the shade Tan, and it does look deeper in its shade, but they both still have that reddish hue to it that I really do enjoy from this bronzer. Yeah, I added a second layer to this one to see if maybe I just needed to build up the intensity. I don't think they're the exact same bronzer, but I do think they have that same reddish hue, and I feel like these two are more similar than these two. You guys let me know your opinion. I also have this bronzer in medium, so we'll swatch that compared to the bronzer from the lighter Instant Look in a palette. So here is the bronzer from the Instant Look in a palette, and this is the lighter version of the palette, and then this is the bronzer from her Airbrush Flawless Finish bronzer in the shade Medium. So as you can see, these two are not identical at all either. The one from her Airbrush Flawless Finish bronzer in the shade Medium does have a deeper, more neutral tone to it. Does have a deeper tone to it compared to the one in her Instant Look in a palette. And then for the Airbrush Flawless Finish powder shade, for this deeper palette, the website says that this is going to be her medium deep shade. Once again, there is no medium deep shade, so I'm just gonna swatch this next to the other powders that we have here. So here is the Airbrush Flawless Finish powder from the deeper Instant Look in a palette, and in my opinion, it looks a little more almost tannish, if you will, compared to these two. These two powders look identical. This one does look a little different, and I do feel like it is slightly deeper than these two. Even when I applied it under the eye, I was like, huh, this one looked just a little more bright than this one did. But the differences are so subtle that I don't think you can tell too much of a difference. There are differences that if you swatch them next to each other, or if you're really paying attention, that you can see upon application. But I think once all of your powders are meshed within the skin and you're done and you set your face, I don't think you can notice a difference between those setting powders at all. I think, you know, my assumption is that they might have just added a little bit of depth to the deeper palette so that that powder was just a little bit deeper. It's definitely not the deep shade in her Airbrush Flawless Finish powder, and it's not completely the medium shade. So I think they just kind of like sprinkled a little bit more depth into it, and that's what we came up with. But in my opinion, it looks more like the medium shade than it does the deeper shade. Now onto the eyeshadows. I feel like the diamond filter texture eyeshadows are different textures. I don't think they're the same one, even though they are stating that they are the same one. Here is that diamond filter texture from the light shade, Gorgeous shade. And then here is the diamond filter texture from the deeper shade. And I feel like as you're looking at them swatch, you can tell that the one from the deeper shade looks more like a topper shade. It's got that beautiful glittery shimmer to it that looks like, you know, it is best applied with your finger, which I do agree. That's how I applied it onto the eye. You just take your finger, dab it on, you get that beautiful reflect, that beautiful glitter-like sheen from the eye look. And it really is, in my opinion, more of a topper shade than a shade that can stand alone. Whereas this diamond filter textured shade from the lighter palette, you definitely have, you know, some metallic sheen to it, but it's got this kind of satin base to it. So in my opinion, it is a shadow that can stand alone. I also used it as a topper shade just to make both eye looks and the application of them look the same, but I do not feel like they are the same texture. I feel like the one from the deeper palette doesn't have as much of a base to it as the one from the lighter palette, which is a disappointment for me, because one of the things that I've noticed that brands do that is frustrating is if they do come out with two palettes, one for lighter complexions, one for deeper complexions, they tend to change things up between the two palettes. And I don't like that. Give the deeper complected palettes the same formula, same textures, same pretty much everything as the lighter palettes, but just adjust the tones so that the tones fit the complexions better. Because when I first used this palette and I got to this diamond filtered textured shade, I was like, ooh, this is going to look scrumptious in the deeper shade. And although I do like the formula, it works beautifully as a topper shade, it doesn't have the base that I was looking for. And so for me, I could use this shade by itself, but I just really thought I was gonna get that creamier, like satin-like formula in addition to that diamond filtered texture, and it's not. So my one critique between both of these face palettes is that just make the formula the same for all of the products, so that if I want to get one or the other, I am literally just choosing between shades. I'm not choosing, oh, well, that has that one texture and this has that one texture. You know what I'm saying? Like, make everything the same in terms of textures and formula. So that would be my only gripe about these palettes. But outside of that, I think these palettes are phenomenal. Going into the eye looks, I mean, one of the things I love about these instant look in a palette is that the eye looks are literally self-explanatory. You just do a quick little eye look and you're done. And because you don't have a lot of shades and shadows, it makes the eye look even quicker because you don't have to think about what you want to do. So from the lighter palette, I went in with the smoke shade, and this worked great as a transition and crease shade. Then I went in with this enhanced shade right here, blended it all across the lid for the most part, and then went in with this brighten shade, and I used my finger and just dabbed it all along on top of the enhanced shade, and I loved how this eye look came out. I took this smoke shade and just ran it along the lower lash line, and then I took the enhanced shade, applied it along the inner corner of the lower lash line, and then took the brighten shade, popped it in the inner corner, and we've got a beautiful eye look that was very simple to create, but it offers and packs a punch. Can I ask more for that? Then going into the deeper palette, I did the same thing. Started out first though with the brighten shade right here, and used that across the inner corner and about 3/4 of the eyelid. Then went in with the smoke shade and just once again blended that out in the outer corner of the eye. Took it into about halfway of the crease, and then went in with the enhanced shade here with my finger. And I do think for this particular texture, finger application is best. There was no fallout. I feel like you definitely see that sparkle, that sheen, that diamond-like effect. I do think this particular formula does show you more of that diamond-like sparkle, which is beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong, the formula is beautiful. I just want the formulas to be the same between both palettes. That's what I want. And I love all of the different colors. You see like blue and red and like some rose in there. Like, there's just tons of like beautiful sparkly flecks in this particular formula. And then for the lower lash line, went in with the smoke shade, did the same thing, smoked out the lower lash line, took the brighten shade, put it along the inner corner, and then I went in with this enhanced shade, popped it into the inner corner. Those are the eye looks. I mean, simple, no fuss, but beautiful, and they both pack a punch. I cannot get enough of these face palettes. I think they are beautiful. When you look at them on my skin, I think, like I said, you can see both on my skin, and I think both showed up well on my skin. I think, of course, the deeper one is going to show more and be a better fit for my skin when comparing the two, but I actually like them both, and I will use them both because I just think they're stunning. I think formulation wise, I mean, I love Charlotte Tilbury products. I think she formulates these products beautifully. I think she does a really good job of making the products pigmented, but then not making them just, you know, too stark on the skin. I think they're just beautiful. Was not a fail at all. Didn't think it was a fail, and very happy that I picked up both of them. Now let's go on to the lip products. So starting out with the Tinted Love, this one I got in the shade Bohemian Kiss. So there are tons of sets on Charlotte Tilbury's website, and the set that I picked up, I'll insert a picture of it. It came with the deeper instant look in a palette. It also came with one of the Matte Revolution lipsticks, one of the Tinted Loves, and also one of her lip cheats. So I'm going to quickly apply this one on the lips just so you can see what it looks like. So this is the Tinted Love lip in the shade Bohemian Kiss. It does retail for $34, and they come in 5 shades. And so Charlotte says, lip and cheek tint in a warm peachy brown shade for a veil of just kissed makeup magic. So it is infused with hyaluronic acid and vitamin E so that it'll help to nourish the lips. It's also supposed to be a long-lasting formula. And I think based on the description of this particular product, it applies and looks like it is described. A veil of color. Makes me think like what my lips look like after maybe eating something that's red, like it leaves a tint of the color of whatever it is. I think it's a beautiful color. This is not a product that I would purchase on its own. It came in the kit that I got. Happy that I got a chance to try it. It does dry down, I would say pretty matte, but doesn't feel uncomfortable. So that is nice. My lips have been peeling like crazy. They've been peeling like crazy. And so just in applying this particular product, it did feel really good on the lips, and I do feel like it kind of concealed some of the dryness of my lips. So I think for what it is, the product is nice, but it's just not one of those products that I would like reach for consistently for this transparent look of color. Does that make sense? Now moving on to the two Matte Revolution lipsticks that I have, and then also her lip cheats. Now these are products I love. I have, I think, 2 of her lip cheats, and I just think they're beautiful. Very comfortable on the lips. They glide on very smooth, and I enjoy the colors that I have. So this one also came in the kit that I purchased, and this is in the shade Super Size Me. So the lip cheats are $22, and this shade is Super Size Me is described as a deep nude pink lip liner. Now the Matte Revolution lipsticks, one of my favorite matte formulas. I I cannot get enough of them. And I told myself this year that I want to get as many of the Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks that I can. I love the Kissing formula. I love the Matte Revolution. I love every formula of her lipsticks, like the bullet lipsticks. They're beautiful. So I picked up the shade Wedding Bells. This is $37. The packaging is so pretty. There's these faux diamonds on them, and then you have this beautiful heart embellishment on the actual lipstick bullet. So let's see what it looks like on the lips. This is so pretty. Oh, this is so pretty. This is described as having a rosebud pink hue. I just cannot. This is so pretty. I love pinky nude. So this just falls right up in my alley of pink lipsticks that I love to wear. I knew I was gonna love it. That's why I got it. And then the second shade that I got is First Dance, and it has that same beautiful embellishment. And this one has a different embellishment. It has the heart with dove wings. How adorable. So this particular shade is described as a blushed berry rose. This is gonna be gorgeous too. This is so pretty. Like, do y'all see why I love Char Girl? I love these types of lip products. I love pink lipsticks too. So if I could say, I'm slightly biased towards Charlotte Tilbury because I genuinely love pretty much everything that she comes out with. I love her formula, I love her packaging, her presentation, and her products make me feel just so girly and glam. But I really think this whole entire collection is truly beautiful. And I think if you enjoy looks like this, if you know that, like, yes, these are the types of tones that I would really reach for, and these are the types of tones that I think would complement my complexion, hands down, pick up any and everything from this collection. Now, if you are deeper than me, because we've got to address, you know, who these palettes are for. Like I said, with this lighter palette, if you are my complexion, then this is what I think. I think this lighter instant look in a palette is going to work for, of course, light to medium. About my complexion would be the deepest that it could work for. In Charlotte Tilbury's Airbrush Flawless foundation, I wear shade 10N, just to give you a reference for that. And I also have listed in my description box a ton of other foundation shades that I do wear. So if you want to know what my shade is and other foundations, definitely check out the D box, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see those different shades that I do wear. If you are my complexion to about, I would say, about 2, maybe 3 shades deeper than me, I think you can get full use of the deeper instant look in a palette. And I think that's it. So obviously, you know, Char Girl, come out with an actual deep palette, one that's gonna work for deeper complexions. And I think a good way for all brands to really gauge, am I coming out with products that everybody can use? I think Charlotte Tilbury has done a good job with her foundation shade range, especially the Airbrush Flawless Finish foundation. So if the deepest shade that you have in that foundation can wear this palette, excellent. But I know that's not true. So make palettes, face palettes, that everybody who wears your foundation can use. But I am happy to see that she came out with 2 instead of 1. So maybe next time they come out with an instant look in a palette release, we'll get 3. That would be amazing, so that everybody can use these. Because for a long time, I wanted to use these palettes and I felt like I can't use the bronzer shade, so I'm paying $75. And for me, I want to use the products the way you say I'm supposed to use it. and then put my own little twist to it. So my first instant look in the palette was this gorgeous glowing beauty one, because the bronzer shade actually looked like it would work for me, and it does. This one is not a matte bronzer. This one has some shimmer to it. And so I finally picked it up and I fell completely head over heels in love with it because of just how quick you can do your eyes, your face, and everything looks so uniform. Everything looks so pretty, and literally, you know, it says 5 minutes. I need about 20, but within a shorter amount of time, I have a whole face. Of course, this is easy to travel with. There's so many benefits to such a small, compact, but efficient and effective face palette. And that's what I think Charlotte Tilbury does extremely well with these. So I would love for her to come out with an even deeper palette so that all skin tones that can wear her foundations can enjoy these palettes. So those are my critiques for these face palettes in terms of shades, but the actual formula of the powder, phenomenal. Totally recommend them. Like I said with the Matte Revolution lipsticks, I love the formula. These are so comfortable. They are matte, but they are not dry and cracky and uncomfortable in a matte formulation. They are like a matte hydrating type of formula. So I love these. I have a nice little collection of her lipsticks. So I knew I was gonna like these, which is why I got them. I wanted more shades. I shared with you all my thoughts on the lip liners. Like I said, I really enjoy these. The only product that I wasn't wowed by, that I was like, I could have done without, is this Tinted Love Lip and Cheek product. Like I said, I think it works phenomenally for what it is marketed as and what it was created for. And if you're a person who loves products like this, I think you will enjoy it. For me, I'm glad that I tried it, but I could have done without it. And guys, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think of the final product. Let me know what you think of how both Instant Look in the palettes worked for me, and the lipsticks and the other lip products. Let me know if you are going to pick them up. And if you've made it to this point in the video and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, go on ahead and consider subscribing. We'd love to have you in this Glam Girl Squad family. And guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you in my very next video. Bye, guys.